your book talks about three interesting principles for navigating economic risks. Number one, you mentioned not sticking to just one model. Number two, tuning out the doomsayers. And then third, embracing what you describe as economic eclecticism. Can you share a little bit more about what each of those three means and the role that it plays in the way that you look at forecasting?
Yeah, master model mentality is what we call it in the book, and it speaks to this desire to think of economics as a natural science. Where you have stable relationships of causes and effect, and where you essentially can reduce things to measurable developments and can also forecast with some precision. What we argue in the book is that this master model mentality is really a fallacy because economics isn't constructed like that. And we're certainly not the first ones to make that point. This goes far back. It goes back to the Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises made the point that we shouldn't treat economics as a natural science. Keynes made similar arguments. And Hayek, we quote Hayek repeatedly in the book in the 70s, particularly, he made the case that there is a big danger here of leading to erroneous forecasts and erroneous results. And that certainly we agree with that. And so we say, embrace the uncertainty that economics brings. Don't try to sort of minimize it compulsively. You will never minimize that uncertainty entirely. You can't have the forecasts that work and deliver each and every single time. So you have to start to embrace that uncertainty and look beyond it. The second point, which is about the doomsaying slant of economics as a discipline, is really the observation that the way public discourse is constructed, the way we run this is slanted to the downside. So the business model of financial news is heavily dependent on our clicks and our eyeballs. And so there is a constant stream of coverage and commentary that plays up the risks and is skewed to doomsaying narratives. We can revisit some of those of the last few years if there's interest, but clearly we don't usually get a rational discourse of the distribution of risk and weigh those against each other. We usually jump to the edges of the risk distribution on financial TV, say, and we drag them to the center of the risk distribution, and we pretend that the economy is perpetually, at the cliff edge and just about to fall to its economic death. And then the third habit that we point out, or the third theme of how we can navigate all this better, is what you mentioned, economic eclecticism, which is really just a fancy word for saying multidisciplinarity. Economics is not a great soloist, we write in the book, but it does play well in a band. So if you combine it with adjacent insight from other disciplines, whether that's finance, history, political science, political economy, that will enrich economics and the analysis it can provide, and it will lead to better results if you do so.
And then maybe dig in a little bit on each of the three. The first I think of is really to avoid using one model to reach a conclusion. And I think of examples perhaps like the SOM rule or inverted yield curve is two. But is that what you're thinking through?
Yeah, these are great examples. The book takes some of these to task. The yield curve has a checkered history. I mean, it's not just the last 2 years where it sent incorrect signals of recession. Even 2018, 2019, I mean, it was pretty clear that often the recession signal that you can derive from an inverted yield curve is scrambled or polluted or just not very clean and clear. And the SOM rule that you mentioned is just sort of an iteration of that history. I mean, it's just a new chapter in that. By the way it's designed, there's a lot of back testing. It looks good on the surface, but I think Claudia Sahm herself has come out and said, look, I mean, it was triggered and supposedly we're in recession, but she doesn't actually believe that. And that just goes to show you will not be able to capture the complexity, the multidisciplinary complexity in a single number. And if you then take such a number and derive conclusions and actions from it, you're quite likely to be caught out or wrong-footed, and it could be costly to do so.